attack this lap.
Check the flag, check the flag.
The desert is done. A charged wind blows our heroes west. Rising from the waves, battle worn and weary. But the fight is not over. A new challenge awaits. The ocean. A demanding trial that will test every ounce of courage, determination, and commitment. Full focus, full send. The ocean takes no prisoners. The earth will shake, waves devour, as they race for more than glory. The next chapter of this electric odyssey will be written here, on African shores.
The race for a greener future has given rise to a new breed of motorsport. Welcome to Extreme E, an all-electric racing series travelling across the globe, not only to raise awareness of the challenges our planet faces, but to promote diversity and inclusion in sport.
From the deserts of Saudi Arabia, our 9 men and 9 women are now on the Atlantic coast of Senegal for the Ocean X Prix. Staged across a 6.1 kilometre course, the teams will fight side by side on the beach to take glory here in Africa.
Hello and a very warm welcome to you here, Senegal, West Africa. As you can see, it's a beautiful day, a beautiful sea as well. And I'm Jenny Gow, Andrew Coley, my co-commentator alongside me, and what a setting this is for the Ocean X Prix.
Yeah, very much looking forward to round 2 of Extreme E. If you're new to it, here is everything you need to know.
The consequences of climate change are affecting millions of people.
Cities worldwide are going to become uninhabitable.
Extreme E is an all-electric off-road racing series with a purpose, in fully electric off-road SUVs. Racing in some of the most remote and damaged areas on Earth, from the polluted and rising ocean of Senegal, melting ice caps of Greenland, diminishing rainforests of the Amazon, retreating glaciers of Patagonia, to rapidly heating deserts of Saudi Arabia.
Immerse yourself in those areas so we can increase awareness, and from awareness we can have more people taking more action.
To tackle these demanding locations requires one of the most robust racing cars ever built, the Odyssey 21.
The car feels insane.
It's amazing how much torque you have to have immediate power when you touch the throttle pedal.
With some of the biggest names in motorsport behind the wheel and a 50-50 split male and female driver lineup, teams will go wheel to wheel on the most extreme terrains, in the most extreme temperatures, driving the most extreme vehicle. Backed by a team of industry-leading scientists to guarantee we not only race without a trace, but we leave a lasting legacy at every location.
It's going to be great to be a part of something that really does make a difference.
This is fierce and exciting racing with the future of our planet at its heart. This is the greatest adventure of our time. This is Extreme E.
Yep, Extreme E, 4 years in the making. As you can see, it's attracted some stellar motorsport names. We've got 5 events across the globe. We began, of course, 8 weeks ago in Al Ula in Saudi Arabia. Looking forward to some brilliant action this weekend, but have a look back at what happened there.
The inaugural X Prix of the Extreme E series was held deep in the ancient deserts of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and it got off to a dramatic start on day 1 with qualifying.
Sarrazin rolls it! Stefan Sarrazin's rolled the car!
Yeah, so our weekend was over before it even started. You know, I didn't even get the chance to drive competitively, but yeah, an unfortunate start, but a long way to go.
It was a truly brutal first weekend's racing for Abt Cupra's Claudia Hurtgen.
Oh, sideways and a roll! Massive off!
Friday we started really good. Saturday then the huge crash, and also the crash on Sunday. Yeah, it was tough.
He's in the dust now, looking for a way through. No lifting! Oh, he hits her! Into the back, he hits Herdgen completely unsighted.
She stopped dead. She stopped. Holy she stopped right in front of me. We're both stopped. I'm okay. She was dead stick, buddy. Blind dust. What happened?
I mean, I made the mistake. I'm behind the wheel driving in the dust. It was something that I never even saw coming through the windshield. One of the worst things I've ever done in a race car. She was fine, I was okay, but at the same time, tragic for both of us.
Andretti United's weekend started out with a heroic drive by Katie Munnings in qualifying.
After Timmy got the puncture for me, it was a real handful to drive, but we just thought about getting it over the line. And then he had some amazing starts on day 2, so we could secure a place in the final.
In the final, Andretti United lined up alongside Rosberg X Racing and X44 to decide who would take the Desert X Prix title.
Green light on the outside, lots and lots of wheel spin for X44. Timmy Hansen with an amazing start on the inside again. He's absolutely blown them away.
No power steering, no power steering.
In the final, I was ready to fight, and we had a technical problem, so we lost our chances, but still a podium finish. That's a good start for the season.
Timmy Hansen once again started fast, but it was Johan Kristoffersen who pulled off an epic cutback to take the lead on lap 1.
It worked before, and I cut across behind Timmy. Couldn't see anything in the dust, but I just kept it buried to the floor, and yeah, I came out in the lead.
At the switch, Molly Taylor took over and had to focus hard to bring the car home.
It was the most nervous lap for sure all weekend. You know, you're so focused on one corner after the other and you're in the moment. I was so happy to get that lap over.
This is going to be the one. This is going to be Molly Taylor winning the first ever Extreme E X Prix. She crosses the line.
Nice job, guys.
So it was Rosberg X Racing who took the glory at the Desert X Prix in Saudi Arabia, along with 35 points to kick off their championship campaign. Can they do it again on the sands of Senegal?
Good times last time out in Saudi Arabia. This time, here we are. Look at that. That is Lac Rose in the background, and these are the team to beat. RXR, Johan Kristoffersen and Molly Taylor. So Kristoffersen 3 times an FIA World Rallycross champion. Molly Taylor, Australian Rally champion. Jenny, they were clearly the team to beat last time. They would have won every session were it not for that penalty for speeding, and I'm excited to see what they can do this time.
Yeah, we've got a really good championship on our hands. As you can see, there's a lot of people who will want to take on Molly and Johan. We've got the X44, Andretti United and Acciona all within about just 9 points of each other. So the battle is on, for sure.
Looking here at some of the teams getting their prep ready for today. Q1 and Q2 to come. That's Kevin Hansen, who's in for a Jensen Button. It's a very challenging course. Take a look. Let's take a look at the course then for round 2 of Extreme E. We come off the start line and straight onto the beach. Absolutely stunning along the Atlantic coast, close to Lac Rose in Senegal. Down here, the drivers are going to be looking at, is the sand smoother, closer to the water's edge? It's bumpier and deeper up closer to the undergrowth. Then up towards the cut. This is the first significant corner. It's slow and tight. This is a much more technical circuit than we saw last time out in Saudi Arabia. Around to the left, we've got option lines here. There's one on the left and one on the right. The left line gives you the quicker turn into this right-hander, and then we head across towards the moguls. This is the section of track which caused the most issues for the drivers in free practice. Bumpier than they thought. There's time to be gained here by taking risks, but it's very much about risk management. If you look at what happened to Veloce and to Abt Cooper with big crashes, also Segi Chip Ganassi back in Saudi Arabia, you've really got to pick your moments to push. This section here through the woods is not a moment to push. It's very narrow, and we expect the track there to break up and to be particularly bumpy. Now we've got another section with alternate lines, left and right. Many more alternate lines than we saw at round 1. That should give us opportunities for overtaking once we get to the racing portion of the weekend. Some big crest dips as we cross towards the dunes section. Deep sand here, some undergrowth as well. There's time to be picked up, but it's hard to know where.
A right-hander and then a left, and we're now heading back towards the beach and a run down towards the switch zone or the finish line. The left and the long right-hander here. We've seen drivers drop down all the way, almost into the ocean, to try and find that flat sand and gun it all the way to the line. 6,185 metres for a lap. We're expecting lap times in the region of 5 to 6 minutes. A fantastic challenge for round 2 of Extreme E.
One of the key principles of Extreme E is to highlight the impact of climate change on the planet. And here in Senegal, the focus is related to the effect of global warming on the ocean, and in particular, the threat of sea level rise across the globe. Here to explain more is Extreme E's Science Committee, Dr. Lucy Woodall.
The ocean is vitally important for us as humans and in fact the planet as a whole. So the increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and the increase of temperature and climate change has multiple different consequences in the ocean. So we have sea level rise, which means our coastal areas are being flooded by salty water. We have additional storms and increased intensity of those storms. But we also have a really direct impact. Poorly managed fisheries has really dramatic impacts on the ocean. Each of those having their unique consequences on the life in and around the ocean. If things continue as they are, by the start of the next century, sea level will have risen over 1 metre. Sea level rise comes from 2 parts: the melting of the ice and the thermal expansion of the ocean water. So as air temperature rises, so does the ocean, and as the water warms, it expands, and this creates an additional sea level rise. With just a 3 degrees temperature rise, by 2100, the Greenland ice sheet will have melted, and that will contribute about 9 centimetres to sea level. The additional melt from glaciers will contribute about 19 centimetres to sea level, but thermal expansion will contribute an additional 40 centimetres. The additional sea level rise is going to cause massive consequences to communities across the planet. So we would expect flooding and even whole communities and towns to disappear. If we can keep temperature rise to about 1.5 degrees, then we can limit the sea level rise to about 1/3 of the current predictions. This is going to have a massive impact, and although it's going to be difficult, but will be managed much more effectively than if we do nothing. So now we need to listen to the ocean and communities that rely on it and be able to put our ingenuity into making sure that we can come up with solutions that work for us now, but critically for our future generations.
Well, thought-provoking stuff from Dr. Lucy Woodall. Lots of information, of course, on all the environmental issues across the social media with Extreme E. But we are about to go racing for the first time in Senegal. Cannot wait. Let's do this.
Welcome 30 seconds. Center. We are in Dakar, Senegal for our Ocean X Prix. It's time now for our qualifiers. Please welcome our first 3 teams. Veloce Racing.
15 seconds, 15 seconds.
Action Assigns XC Team. And Andretti United. Our teams are set and ready to race.
Veloce off the line for Q1. Such an important weekend for these guys. Jenny, last time out, an absolute disaster. Stéphane Sarrazin rolled the car. They put a tiny ding in one of the roll cage hoops, which meant that from a safety point of view, they weren't allowed to continue. So the start of 2 runs today is an important day for all the teams, but particularly for these.
Yeah, you can see Jamie Chadwick in the car there. Of course, W Series champion, but very different skill set on show this weekend. 4 points to their name for Veloce, so they need to try and climb up the order. They need a good weekend. This is the section that goes along the coastline. You can see there, driver's point of view, the Atlantic on the left, and then you cut through off the beach right and towards the sections that start getting very technical, very twisty.
Jamie Chadwick looking relaxed in the car, but then up at turn 1, maybe struggling to get it turned in just how she wanted to. Now, the team actually asked for Jamie to have a 20-minute familiarisation session prior to this event, which was granted, and I think that was fair because 0 runtime in Saudi, nothing at all. Although some of the other teams, Chip Ganassi had a couple of shunts, Apt Cooper had a couple of shunts, they all got time in the car and Jamie didn't. So she was allowed a 20-minute session, but the car was on reduced power. They weren't allowed to use their own power. They weren't even allowed to have their own engineers there. It was just a get in the car and feel it session. So Jamie's doing really well here. We saw yesterday in shakedown, Jenny, that she was okay, but I think not as quick as she would want to be herself. But also they can't afford to have another issue like they had last time. They must complete the weekend.
Yeah, I think she's using this weekend very much to build towards a final result. As you said, they want to go safely, they want to learn the course. It's a very different track for them to get their heads around, and you know, jumps, you don't see jumps when it comes to track racing. So remember, she's used to a single-seater car. This is a very, very different kettle of fish for her. This the mogul section. Remember, this is qualifying, so she'll go round, they'll go through the switch, and then Sarrazin will go round, he'll do a lap as well. You put the times together, and then we'll see where everybody kind of comes out.
Oh, mistake for Chadwick there, rear end of the car kicked high. That's exactly what we saw yesterday for Matthias Ekstrom and also for Katie Munnings.
Yeah,
we know
Katie
the cars
Munnings
are
had a big one, didn't she?
Yeah, we know the cars are a bit lively on the rear end. This section is called the Woods, so it's in and out through the trees, properly in and out through the trees. It's very narrow, and we can expect to see the course changing a lot during the course of the weekend. In fact, you can already see some of the crests are getting worn down, so they actually become smoother and a bit less violent, but you're never going to see that with these mogul sections. That's going to remain a challenge through the entire weekend.
Yeah, it's a challenge for the car as well. Suspension on it, you can just see it moving around. It's got to absorb all of that shock. And then also for the driver, they're getting bounced around as well. So this is going to be a very aggressive, very tiring weekend. And you might be sitting on your sofa right now watching, thinking, oh, it doesn't look too bad. I tell you what, they are having a workout.
It's extremely physical. Yeah, driving any race car is very, very physical indeed. You often hear people say it's just driving a car. It's absolutely nothing like just driving a car. This is one of the sections of the track where we're really expecting to see very varied lines, and certainly somewhere where you might be able to make a pass. There's a couple of sections we'll see later on where one side is smooth and the other side has got many crests in it. So, you know, can you get past a car when we get to the racing portion? Remember, today is qualifying, one car at a time. It's based on time. So both drivers will drive the car now. Jamie will switch over to Stefan Sarrazin. He will complete a lap, and that double lap will be their time, and then they do it again. But later on, Jenny, Stefan will have to start first.
Yeah, it's a nice switch up to the rules, actually. So they've made sure that the drivers change to the start. So whoever starts this session will go second in the next qualifying, and then the same tomorrow when it comes to the semi-finals and the final race as well. They'll have to switch it up.
Yeah, and that was done because what we were seeing is the same drivers taking the start each time, and that was based on the fact that some of the drivers have racing experience and some of them do not. Now, in fact, I think the likes of Jamie Chadwick and Stefan Sarrazin are going to have an advantage because Jamie is well used to a multi-car race start. When you've got some of the rally drivers later on. Yeah, she's loving it.
She's enjoying it so much. I love
she should be. She's out there, you know, having it over the sand dunes. Who wouldn't be enjoying it? But yeah, she, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing Jamie in a race start. You know, it's going to be fascinating to see how she gets on. We've got no idea compared to from last weekend in Saudi. This is a good start. Obviously, we have nothing to compare it to yet today, but each car that comes up, you'll be able to follow the timing at the bottom of the screen to see.
So coming back to the Atlantic, she'll make a right turn and then heading to the switch zone. This is the part where if you go near the sea, that sand is lovely to get some traction on. As you can see, she's dipping the car's little tyre toes into the water and getting some real speed up there as she comes towards the switch zone. Now, this is where she's going to have to hammer on the brakes. Different styles, different techniques to see which one is better for you. And then Sarrazin will be waiting with that time.
She's really early on the brakes there, Jenny, so that's a little bit overcautious. Now, we saw yesterday some people leaving it a little bit too late. If they lock the wheels, you'll see a lot of sand will fly up, and they'll lose significant time there too. If they break the speed limit, they get a penalty of 1 second per kilometre per hour. I think last time out in Saudi it was something crazy like 5 seconds. So again, some of the penalties have changed, which I think is good. And the other thing which has changed is the length of time in the switch zone. So it was 45, it's now 40 seconds. They're not allowed to do anything with the belts until they come to a standstill. And you can see there's a fair bit to do to get the car sorted for Sarazan to jump in.
So insert comes out, Jamie's frame a little bit smaller. They don't have different seats, it's just a little insert that makes it comfortable for the driver. So Jamie gets out, Stefan then has to make sure he plugs in all the different parts. So he's got his comms unit, he's got the seatbelt ready to go, he's got 40 seconds minimum on the clock, and then as soon as the one mechanic that's allowed to help him has got out the way, all in neutral, when the time says, he can then start to accelerate out, keeping his speed limiter on until he gets to the section where he can then deploy and go full power.
Saw a few penalties last time, didn't we? And actually yesterday during free practice, there was an early release by the X44 squad. They were given a penalty, but as free practice doesn't count for anything, it doesn't matter. And in fact, we saw a lot of the teams yesterday stopped here just after the switch zone and did another practice start so that the drivers who are going to have to do a start later on in the weekend can get a feel for it. We saw some of them gunning it full throttle. We saw some of them being a little bit smoother with it. I wonder if they're using hyperdrive down this straight, Jenny. Each driver gets 4 seconds of 400 kilowatts, which is a boost in power. And I can't see anywhere else on this circuit where it's useful.
Yeah, there is, of course, a super sector as well, which is in the middle part. So you can choose, can't you, whether you use your hyperdrive on that section, which is quite bumpy, or this section. You're absolutely right. You can just see down at the bottom, Jamie Chadwick getting into the command centre. Jean-Eric Verne, Formula E driver, ex-F1 driver as well, stood there on the left of the screen. He's the man who's co-founder of the team, one of the brains behind it, and his first trip into the command centre to see what it's all about. Jamie will be joining us later as well to have a chat in our remote commentary booth.
Yeah, we've got Timo Scheider out there for us. Timo's going to be looking after a series of guests in the commentary box out in Senegal.
Make it sound like he's going to make tea for them.
Well, maybe he is. I mean, he's a lovely bloke, Timo. You just never know. So Sarazan here, I think you can see the difference in terms of experience with off-road. Sarazan, although he's done an F1 race and has been competing at the highest level of WEC, was also a factory driver for Subaru in the World Rally Championship. And somebody who can compete at that elite level of motorsport across that many categories, you know, is a definite all-rounder. And Sarazan will be completely at home here. I think he was unlucky to get caught out in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, this bit is a little bit tricky. There's quite a lot of the deeper sand here, so you can see it kicking up. But then we get onto the jump section. So you can see the flags in the background, number 10. This is a nice little section. He'll get to 11 as well, which is a good jump. And you can just see how much air this car, number 5, Veloce, gets. Not too much air, keeps it pretty close to that hill. Carries on his way. This is the mogul section. So all of the different parts named so that you can try and enjoy them and follow along with what Stefan's doing. This is the rock and roller.
So this is part of the super sector which Jenny mentioned earlier on. So there are 5 championship points up for grabs for any driver at any point during the weekend who sets the fastest time through sector 2, which is effectively on the timing screens for the team. So the exact start and finish of where that sector is, I'm not sure right now, but for me, Jenny, you're never going to use the hyperdrive in here, are you? Because it's just too bumpy. But I think you could take some serious risk if you fancy those 5 championship points. I certainly think you'll see the drivers who are in the shootout going for it because they've got no chance of making the final, so you might as well go full send at that point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. So Sarazan comes back to the straight, so you can see this runs parallel to the beach, but a large banking of those trees to the right, meaning that it's a great bird's eye view. When you look down at the beach, you can see exactly what they're going through. The concentration of his eyes as well is fascinating. Similar line to Chadwick.
Yeah, interesting straight line over that, isn't it? It's neither to the left nor the right. So this is the section where on the right-hand side here you can pass, but look at the crests, and that's why the drivers are all taking this line. So we might see it as an alternate during the racing, but I suspect it's just too slow to be able to make the pass.
Yeah, 4 cars in the final this weekend, so that should add a little bit of drama. And I suppose if you're car number 3, look, that's a really good angle. You can see the bumps that you'd have to go over if you take the alternate line on the right-hand side of your screens. If you were car 3 or 4, do you give it a whack and just hit and hope in a way?
It just depends, doesn't it, whether or not you think you can make the pass. You know, if cars 1 and 2 are having a fight on the other section of track which slows them up, you might be able to. But I think the low line, the smoother line, is going to be the one which is going to get taken through there.
Yes, Sarrazin.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Coming towards the end of his lap now. He'll just do the final section. You can see the speed is carrying in. It's a beautiful shot of that. So he'll hug round and then make his way towards the Atlantic again. I wonder if there's a part of relief, because as soon as you see the sea, you know you're on the home straight.
There will be for these guys, Jenny, just simply because it's crucial they get a result. We discussed yesterday at some length when we were watching Shakedown, myself and Jenny Gow, about risk management, and these guys didn't get that right in Saudi. Yes, it was a tiny mistake, and yes, they paid a massive price, but you can't go out in session number one. You've got to, for me, in Q1 and Q2, you need to ensure a top 6 position. That sees you in the semi-finals, and it sees you with a chance of winning the event. So if you want, you can minimise your risk and get yourself in P5 or P6, probably without any chance of a crash, or limited chance of a crash. They'll all want to be further up than that. But I mean, I think yes, Sarrazin will just be pleased to have made it. He reached down to the dash there. This could be the other opportunity to use hyperdrive on the run to the finish line. That would definitely be an option. He definitely reached down to the dash on the run to the line. So they stop the clocks at 11:37.599. That is the benchmark for everybody else.
I wonder how much of a disadvantage it is by going first. The track's not cut up so much, so that's a bonus, but then everybody can see what you've done, they can see what worked, what hasn't worked for you, and the benchmark time is there for everybody as well. I
think certainly that the later in the session you go, the more cut up the track will be. This is a replay, look at that, that's Jamie Chadwick getting a big hard kick on the rear end of the car there. So yeah, in theory the track gets cut up more during the course of the weekend, but I think really... Here's Sarrazin.
Jamie, wonderful to speak to you. Finally out there starting your XE journey.
Yeah, it feels a little bit late now, second round in, but yeah, to have our first qualifying lap, or my first qualifying lap under my belt feels great. And yeah, there's a lot more pace there, but I think just taking it step by step, getting the laps under our belts, and yeah, just to get it through this session is great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this is the second run. This is the Acciona Sainz team. And first off in the car, it was King Carlos Sainz taking the start on this beautiful Atlantic Ocean setting in Senegal. A man who's so used to driving in the Dakar. This a different Dakar challenge for him, and you can see feels very at home in the car, and a really good start to the lap for him.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz completely from the off-road background. Yeah, you could argue maybe not so much experience when it comes to multi-car starts, although he didn't mind getting stuck in last time out in Saudi Arabia. A bit of contact on the run to the first corner. So the team's opting to put a driver in first. Look at that jump from Carlos. That was absolutely fully lit over there, wasn't it? In maximum attack mode from his rally background. But yeah, they've opted to put Carlos in first, and that means he will take the start in the semi-finals tomorrow, and that Laya Sanz will take the start in the final. Look at the rear end high there as well. Unfortunately, when they came to their switch zone, Jenny, they were a little bit slow.
They were. So this weekend, 40 seconds on the clock. You have to put your car into neutral, and only when you've stopped moving, car in neutral, can you start fiddling with your seatbelts and getting that driver switch made. And you can see here, Laya Sanz goes in, but Carlos shaking his head, not happy with the fact that they're having to supposedly race within the pits.
Well, they lost 4 seconds on the switch. Carlos was, last time out in Saudi Arabia, Carlos was the one driver who said, look, we want a bit more time for the switch. He has a relevant point, which is that, of course, all the belts must be in place. Then, on the other hand, Jenny, you know, in endurance racing, we've seen driver switches happen very quickly indeed, and it can be managed. So it's a case of practicing as well. Unfortunately, what you can't practice for is what happened to Laya Sanz. So she got a big kick at the rear of the car. Nothing that we hadn't seen already from Carlos Sainz, but the car then ground to a halt on her run, and that was a real shame, because although they'd lost 4 seconds in the switch zone, they were actually 24 seconds up on the time of Veloce.
Yeah, they were having a really good run. Disappointment for the team. They tried to get it going again, but unfortunately, as you can see there, Leia just really trying to find another setting.
She got going briefly, but it was about 10-20 seconds further down the course where the car finally ground to a halt, and it would go no further. So it's a DNF for Acciona Sainz XE in qualifying 1 in Senegal.
Well, our third team to take the gate is Andretti United. They had a a solid weekend last time out. They sit third in the championship, but they needed a very good start. And off the line, it was Hansen, Timmy Hansen. And that will be strategy call for the rest of the weekend, Andrew.
Yeah, so the driver that takes the start in this session will take the start in the semi-finals. We saw last time out teams were putting their most experienced starter in for the semi and the final. Now, because we felt we wanted to see the other drivers take the start, there's been a rule change, meaning you have to alternate on the start. So Andretti have definitely bet on Hansen taking the start in the semi-final. Now, he was flying on his first lap. He was equal to the pace of Carlos Sainz, who quickest at this point. Big landing. And the car then for Timmy Hansen, unfortunately, later on in the lap came to a halt. He went through all the reset procedures. He was desperately trying to get it going. Just as we thought he wasn't going to be able to continue, he got going again, but with a loss of 3 minutes. I wonder if we're going to see Timmy stop or not. This was the section, I think, was towards the end of the lap, wasn't it, when he stopped? But got the car back round for Katie to take over.
Yeah, so crucial to just keep on going. And if you can get it restarted, then fine. You've got to make up some time somewhere, but that's not what's relevant. Okay, so you can see Katie's reaction there when she was in the switch zone. She thought that was game over. She actually asked the question, are we going to get going again? You can see Roger Griffith in the command center. They tried to help, but he managed to get it going, get to the switch zone, and Katie, from thinking it was game over, game back on. You have to put your game face and go again.
Yeah, we thought Katie might, Timmy actually, as he got out of the car, said to Katie, I had a big hit.
I had a hard landing, Katie.
That's, you hear him say it, and we thought that might mean Katie would lift off on this lap, but she didn't, did she? She got it absolutely sent again, just like she did with the puncture last time out. She took a couple of green sectors, meaning she was gaining on the fastest time so far. It was a good job by Munnings. They've lost 3 minutes. They're going to be a fair way down the order in Q1, but you know what? They recovered from that in Saudi Arabia, and I think they can do the same again here.
Yeah, of course, Q1 and Q times put together gives us the order for tomorrow, depending on which semi-final you can get yourself into as well. So Katie wrestling with that Odyssey 21, doing a great job just dipping the car's tyres almost into the sea, and she posted her time. Yes, okay, it's not going to be a time to challenge the top ones, but that's okay. They got the car round. That's the most important thing. Put a time on the board, get going.
Well, let's take a look back at some of the action. A little bit of analysis for you from the early runs in qualifying. This was Veloce heading off down the beach at the very start. What a great place to start a race, eh? It's just unbelievable. You never see a track quite so close to the ocean's edge as this. And this was Jamie Chadwick looking so relaxed to me, Jenny.
Yeah, really relaxed. Bearing in mind this isn't her natural habitat because she doesn't do off-road, but she's put a lot of work and time into actually improving herself. W Series test last week in Anglesey, so very different on the Welsh coast, but she's jumping around here. You won't get that in a single-seater.
I'll tell you, Anglesey's almost as close to the Atlantic Ocean as, well, the Irish Sea, as this is. This was the Acciona Sainz car off the line. We've seen yesterday people trying different tactics off the line. Do you just gun it and get loads of wheel spin, see if you can get the car away, or do you smoothly apply the RPM and find some traction? It's such a long straight, Jenny, that if you get that start wrong, you're going to lose time the whole way down to turn one.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going right by the Atlantic Ocean on that start. Now, there are a couple of different lines. We've not seen many so far this morning, but I tell you what, that car hopping around under the control of Carlos Sainz, it looks majestic, but oh, how damaging would that be on the car?
Sand pouring out there from the underguards underneath the car. Huge amount of suspension travel, but such a challenging course. That kicker there, we've seen so many people fire the rear end of the car up high. There it is again. A stoppie, you'd call that, on a bike. But look at this. There, lovely. On board, Leia Sands now gritting her teeth. And of course, they had a couple of problems. Was it because they'd attacked the course a little bit too hard? Remember, the car is the same for everybody, and you've got to drive it to the limit of what it can do.
Next up, Andretti United, and it was Timmy Hansen in the hot seat for that long stretch down the Sound. That had a really good angle to give you an idea of the tracks that are laid down already, finding the right bit of sand that you want to go on to get the most amount of traction, but also the most amount of speed. So it's cutting it from distance to traction point as well.
This is towards the second half of the lap and in the dunes section, and you can carry a lot more speed here than I think you initially think you can. And yesterday we saw Kyle Leduc with an incredible rhythm through this section, take a massive 7 seconds off everybody. And I think if you can get that right, you can get a huge amount of lap time. Unfortunately, Hansen never got the chance to prove whether he was going to get it right, Jenny.
No, car stopped out on track, so you could see there one of the course marshals just with him trying to, I mean, what could he do? But, oh, there it was, jumped back into life, surprised us all because we thought they were about to retire the car, but no, got it back on track. So really good job from the team, from Timmy, trying to reset it all on his own there to be able to hand over to Katie Munning. So good job by the team in the end.
Getting ready for our next run, and it's championship leaders and round 1 winners RXR, Johan Kristoffersen and Molly Taylor, Nico Rosberg's squad.
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Command centre getting ready to go. There is Nico Rosberg, been at both these first 2 events. I wonder if he'll be there for the whole season, fully invested, and you can see how nervous he is. Arms folded in there, you know, reading the body language. He was so stoked when they won round 1, and I love the fact that an XF1 world champion is there and feeling the pressure of being a team boss.
Yeah, it's fabulous to see him in a totally different context. Of course, Monaco last week for F1. He was actually kicking about with Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's team also in this group. They go 3rd. But now it is the chance of Johan Kristoffersen to show what he's got. He goes first for the team, and they start going down this long beach stretch, and he'll be using this to suss out exactly what he's going to do when it comes to the second qualifying, when it comes to semis, when it comes to the race.
She's got a hand down on the dash, Jenny, the whole way off the start there. So there, sudden boost in power. I'm almost certain that's hyperdrive. You could hear it. The RPM was pretty standard, and then suddenly an enormous boost in power. I reckon he's using it off the start line there. We think it's either the start or the finish, but you can't use it until you reach a point where you know, it's got to be straight, it's got to be smooth. You don't want to use it too early, you'll just end up with more wheel spin. And I think Kristoffersen was waiting for the wheel spin to die before activating the hyperdrive. And look at the time. So they're gaining time already. At the minute it's showing them as P3, but the green sectors mean they are closing the gap, and it's nothing. It's 0.3 of a second.
I find it fascinating that some of these drivers really, as a team, think about what they're going to do. There's so much strategy that they can utilise to give themselves the very best chance of getting through to the final and scoring some big points. They are the championship leaders at the moment, 35 points to X44 with 30 points. So they're going to want to go out there and set a really challenging time.
Yeah, I think you want to lay down a bit of a marker, don't you? They certainly did last time in Saudi Arabia. They would have won every single session, but for a speeding penalty in the switch zone. Now, they said they'd got the button pressed and the car went over the limit anyway. Johan, though, is on a big push here. Rear end of the car high. Look at the rotation in it, though, beautifully round that flag. He was early on the throttle on the exit. See how he is down the crest, keeps the car squashed. Oh, big kick on the rear, holds onto it. Johan, he's close to the wheel, Jenny, but Johan is 6'4". He's a big guy, and the height differential between him and Molly is probably the biggest of the driver pairings in it. So he's sitting slightly closer, which will be to assist Molly. Also, to be fair, I'm not sure the seat goes back any further. When you're 6'4", you're always a bit close to the wheel.
My heart bleeds for you, it really does. Yeah, compromise this one because you can't change the settings too much. So Molly Taylor will probably have a little seat adjuster to put in. I've seen Kristoffersen taking that line before, brushing those trees as he goes through the wood section. It's a very different line to some of the other cars, but Kristoffersen knows what he's doing out there. Very, very experienced when it comes to off-road driving, and he is a master around here.
I mean, he's again, Johan for me is one of, if not the best all-rounder in the game. He really is. You know, multiple times Porsche Carrera Cup Scandinavia champion. He won the Superstars Championship. He then moved across to Rallycross. Him and his dad wanted to be a world champion, that they knew he wouldn't be able to do single-seaters because of his height. He'd been a pro skier, cross-country skier. And this is an elite athlete who then switched and you know what can we win? And they set their sights on the World Rallycross Championship, and he is the most successful driver in the history of that discipline. 3 times an FIA world champion. He actually took up rallying, interestingly, Jenny, because he felt that reading the road and in a short part of the rallycross lap, a joker lap, was his weak point. So he's taken up rallying to learn to read the road better.
He's just read it very differently, gone to the left-hand side of that sort of clump of trees, so taking a different position. But you can see there, live timing, he's just managed to get himself into first, but only, look at that, by the smallest of margins. So this is going to flip-flop for a moment, and we're going to have to see him establish that lead, or try and establish that that lead. But this section, one of the more challenging. He's going to have to really work to get the car moving forward, to get the momentum.
Watch for the rhythm here, how much speed you can carry through when you get this right. You can see the line picked right through the middle, coming high to the left now to keep it into the right-hand side, and again carrying down the crest, big impact, up and over slightly left now. And Kristoffersen using all that rally cross experience to read the road. They were so fast in Saudi, weren't they? Him and Molly Taylor were completely untouchable in terms of pace. Certainly come the final, of course, they had the advantage of the dust. They're 1.18 seconds up now.
Yeah, really nice section. Very thick sand through that turn, so you've got to make sure you nail it. You can take too much speed into there and the car almost digs in at that point. So he's managed to not do that. The other teams are looking on from the command center. They can see exactly what Kristoffersen's doing. They can see the threat that he poses.
They can. Now, Carlos Sainz was the guy who set the super quick time on lap 1. Sainz is impressive, isn't he? When you think I think he's the oldest driver out there, and he's still setting times which are keeping up with current world champions. I mean, he's just absolutely brilliant.
59 years young, so yes, that does make him the oldest by a year from Jutta Kleinschmidt.
Yeah, very, very good. Good old Carlos. So yeah, so Kristoffersen comes in, and you can see they're losing a couple of tenths on the brakes into the switch zone. He'll be on the limiter there just to try and make sure there's 30 kilometers an hour into the switch zone. Look how painfully slow it feels, but you know that everybody else is doing the same thing, so you just got to relax. He now needs to think about what he's going to say to Molly Taylor. They know they're the pace setters. They won every session last time, bar that penalty.
Tell you what, pace setters, but Kristoffersen only 0.8 up. You would have thought potentially he would have had more of an advantage at that point. So you can see there, the time starts, neutral is on. Molly Taylor springs out like a coiled cobra, ready to go into action. Johan Kristoffersen out. The engineer there helping by putting the insert in for Molly so she can get in as quickly as possible. And Johan helping to get her strapped in and making sure that she can get the swiftest departure possible. They don't want to lose time to that 40 seconds in the switch zone.
No, the difference between 40 and 45 is marked, isn't it? Last time we saw drivers sitting, waiting for 5 seconds before the release.
Was that door closed properly? Just had a little look. I'm just,
not
I think someone might have come around, maybe had a look at it, but just want to have a little outside look at that door if we can to make sure it's properly closed. Do you think that they'd get that sorted?
Johan on the radio there, he's plugged straight into a radio. And if that's to pass anything on to Molly now she's underway, because you...
Okay, Molly, use balance 2 afterwards. Balance 2, that's better than 1.
Interesting. So Kristoffersen passing on to Molly, use balance 2, not balance 1. So Timo Scheider and Daniel Abt out there. That's great tactics by Kristoffersen. Wait until this lovely long straight to pass Molly a piece of information about the settings on the car.
Yeah, well, actually, this is a different strategy right now, but those guys having the pressure, those guys have to deliver. And I'm really looking forward what the lap time will be of Molly. Those guys like Johan and Molly, they haven't been so happy yesterday, actually. They haven't been happy with the driving, especially. But they analyzed, like we all know Johan. He's always like analyzing till late night. He was for sure together with Molly, trying to figure out the best line and the best strategy. So yeah, Johan did okay, I would say, but like you just said, he was not flying all over the place. But overall, first you have to finish. That's the most important. But let's see what Molly is capable of doing right now.
It's fascinating, this championship, isn't it, Daniel? Because you have to work together as a team. You have to be a strong pairing if you're going to work your way up these standings. It's a new concept, isn't it, for the drivers?
Yeah. Hey guys, first of all.
Hey.
Nice to be here. Yeah, I think it's fantastic seeing this new championship. You know, completely different form of motorsport. You know, having this kind of team together, you really feel that it's a team sport, and there's no need to be the fastest. You need to be, as a team, you need to be the fastest, and you see that everyone's trying to work together, pushing each other. A lot of pressure also for these guys because it's very little practice. So I have huge respect for what they do, and I really love watching it.
Daniel, you're of course from a Formula E background, so familiar with the electric vehicles, but normally as a driver, you're here as a team representative this time round. What's more nerve-wracking? Is it watching the teams from the outside, or is it being the driver? It seems to me the management are super stressed.
To be honest, I still think that driving is the harder part, to be really fair. I think especially here, if you see what the drivers are doing with all these lines and you know, the car jumping around, it's really not easy. So of course, watching from the outside, you always want your team to do well, but in the end, once the car is started, there's nothing you can do. You can just hope that they do the best job they can and that they bring the car back in one piece.
6.1 seconds up at the moment for Molly Taylor. Daniel, one more question for you. Timo Scheider is there with you as we've managed to turn him from the dark to the dark side, you know, from circuit racing to off-road. Is there any chance we can persuade you to come and do some of this?
To be honest, I feel like you really need a lot of experience to be in Extreme E. So I don't feel like any driver could come from normal road racing, from Formula racing, and be there with that little track time you have and be competitive. I mean, we've seen that with Jenson Button, for example, last time around. You know, he's a Formula 1 world champion, but you struggle if you don't understand the technique and the way of driving. It's just a completely different animal, and that's why I feel like there's people that are experts in this kind of racing, and without the needed practice, I feel like you don't help anyone if you just jump in and then don't have no clue what to do.
Daniel, thank you so much. We'll come back to you and Timo shortly. We're just rounding out the lap, and Molly Taylor is having an absolute flyer. 32 seconds now. She has thrown down the gauntlet for everybody else doing the second lap in qualifying, and she is showing how it is done.
Sainz and Sands were on a great time, weren't they? Because Molly was only 5 seconds up right until the point where Laia Sands had her issue. So at the point where Sands had her issue on the second lap, you saw the gap go from -5 to -35. So a huge amount of time gained at that point. Of course, from then on, we're now comparing the time to Veloce Racing. So the time of Chadwick and Sarazan. You know, these guys, I think we were expecting Taylor and Kristoffersen to be bang on that pace. We knew Sainz and Sands were there as well. There's plenty of teams. I'm so excited as well to see the pace of Chip Ganassi, Jenny. You know, this session is not over, but this is going to be the benchmark.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can see her swinging the car around the final stretch down as she goes really close to that sea line at the Atlantic Ocean here at Lagros, and she'll come down trying to set the fastest time for anybody else. Remember, we've still got the App Cooper team and X44 in this little session of cars, but she is trying to nail it and go as fast as she can through the finishing line for Molly Taylor. Johan Kristoffersen, the Rosberg X Racing team, set a great time, 11:02 and 3:10, and you can see the effort it took for Molly Taylor to do that, but Nico Rosberg in the command centre will be delighted with that.
Great run by Taylor and Kristoffersen. There we go, some of the beautiful local wildlife. We saw 10 of those hawks all together on the beach earlier on today. Wonderful setting for a race. Some issues to deal with as well. We'll run you through that during the course of the weekend. RXR rolling back to the paddock. Currently in P1, so 35 seconds quicker for me, Jenny. No massive mistakes on those 2 laps. Maybe you could take a few more risks and go a little bit quicker, but how much of a risk do you want to take? How much do you want to be the qualifying leader? Is it worth that risk?
It is for them, that's for sure. That's exactly what they've done. Good on them. RXR go to the top of the standings at the moment.
Next car up on the line, good to go, is Apt Cupra XE. Big story for these guys. Claudia Hurtgen was withdrawn last night, and the team said publicly heavy stomach bug. So get well soon, Claudia Hurtgen. And they've chosen to use the championship driver. So we've got Timo Scheider is the male championship driver, and Jutta Kleinsmith, Dakar winner, is the female championship driver. She jumps in alongside Matthias Ekström. We're not sure who's taking the start just yet. We'll see in a moment. There it is, off the line though. Going to be it's Ekström. So Ekström taking the first lap. Going to then hand over to Jutta Kleinsmith. Jenny, there's big news. First time we've seen the stand-in drivers used.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a person to bring in as well. Jutta, who has so much experience in Dakar. We spoke to her yesterday and she was saying that actually in Dakar, she is pretty well known. People come up to her, they greet her because she won the Dakar. The first female to win it in 2001. She got a podium in 02 and 05. She's done 2 wheels, 4 wheels. She is the person in very safe hands that Matthias Ekström will hand over to.
Ekstrom up the straight there. I wasn't sure if he was going to use hyperdrive. It didn't sound like he did to me. He was frowning down at the dashboard. We'll wait until we see some split times. Doesn't look to be any issue. Runs the car high up the bank. He was high on the line on the beach as well. Pitches it in. Ekstrom, another man who is a real all-rounder. Look, 2016 FIA World Rallycross champion. He's been a DTM champion. He is a master tactician. No trick is ever missed by Matthias Ekstrom. Full concentration mode in the car there as well. You can see he's frowning, Jenny. He's hanging on tight.
Yeah, and this is the man who helped to rebuild that car after the huge shunts that they had last time out. And actually, the team's working together to try and do that. It's a really nice story that they're using each other's skills to help rebuild. So it's Abt, Cupra and Veloce who worked together on Thursday to repair their cars after the Saudi crashes that they had.
Yeah, the teams asked the stewards for extra time to work on them. They were put straight onto the Santa Elena and shipped here. That took a couple of weeks via a stop at Formula E in Spain. Got the cars here in a couple of days' hard work. Carl Leduc was also working hard on his, but Ekstrom has his own team away from Extreme E in rally and rallycross. He's no stranger to working on these cars. And I love that. I love seeing the drivers get stuck in. They have a limited number of personnel, and that's part of limiting the environmental impact. We don't want them flying 50 members of staff out there, so there are only 7 people who are allowed to touch the car, and I believe that includes both the drivers. So it's really handy if you've got a driver who's as good on the tools as they are on the wheel.
One of the teams has a guy who's as good on the tools, and he's in them. You know, he's one of the mechanics, but if they need to, he can be their reserve driver, which is fascinating. Right, so Ekstrom manages to set the fastest time. He has now put that team into pole position for qualifying 1. You can see that by the green number 1 at the bottoms of your screen is a second, just over a second up so far on the Rosberg team that have just set their time.
Really pushing, isn't he? Loses a little half a second there. Pink means that they're going quickest overall. Green would mean that they've gone quickest in between the 2 waypoints. Each of these pairs of flags is a waypoint. Watch for the line here. They cut straight across the middle and then back the other way, and it's just basically to minimise the number of crests. Now, line position showing P3, look, and he's only 0.39 down, so dropping from 1st to 3rd. At this point, those cars are covered by less than a second and a half, so the pace differential between the top cars here is extremely tight. He's gaining time again, so the green shows you he's going quicker, but still not quite into P1, and gains time again between those flags. So Ekstrom pushing hard, but Jenny, this is a great sign. We're in for a hell of a race this weekend.
Yeah, it's a really challenging course, and that means that you can make such small little gains by taking, you know, a metre to the right, a metre to the left, making sure you're making the absolute best decisions out there. And it's hard because your car's being thrown around, you're being thrown around. So how much precision they can actually show, that's the question I want to know from the guys, because it looks like you're just kind of hitting and hoping, but that's not what goes on in these cars.
It's always fascinating. You compare it to circuit racing where you're looking for hundreds, you're looking at braking points, apexes, repetition. Seeing the same corner 1,000 times. With rally, any kind of off-road, it's much more about seeing 1,000 corners once, but it always fascinates me. You go over, say, 18, 20, 25 kilometres, and the difference is tenths. And that will seesaw between driving styles and braking zones and where people took more risk. But yeah, it's brilliant to see. Ekstrom has pushed really hard here. 1.18 up now as he comes round through the final couple of waypoints. Going to come into the switch zone. Let's see him down beach straight, drops all the way down, going to hook a wheel through the edge of the tide there. Abt Cupra machine coming up towards the finish line for the switch. Watch for his braking zone, full concentration. He'll go as late as he dares on the anchors. Here we go. Watch for the nose to dip, comes up across the top of the beach, hard on the brakes now, hanging onto the car, got to hit 30 kilometers an hour. That is about as late as you can go. They're 1.1 up. Now we're going to see Jutta Kleinsmith jump in, a Dakar legend. First time we've seen her competitively used this year. There she is.
Yeah, I wonder how the teams feel about this, the other teams, because she is the championship driver, and of course that means she's been out there, she knows the track a little bit, she's got her eye in on it already. So yes, she missed out on running yesterday because that was when Claudia Hergen was in the car, or at least tried to be. So let's see what Jutta can do, because she's got to climb in. Little insert for her. That's just an insert to raise her up rather than forward. So that's always interesting to see exactly what they're going to do to help each of them. Driver leans in, Ekstrom trying to help her out as well.
This is going to be fascinating. If you're one of the other teams, you know, with respect, I think Hertgen was a little way off the pace in Saudi, and yesterday she clearly wasn't well and was off the pace again. Suddenly you've got a Dakar legend jumping in with Ekstrom, who's just gone quickest on lap 1. You're going to be thinking, okay, this could be a threat.
Tell you what though, they won't have practiced the switch. She won't know the team, she won't know their processes, and yes, okay, everybody's still getting to grips with it, but that's one of the sort of negatives in a way. But let's see what Jutta can do. This is a fascinating storyline for the competition, for the championship, and really, as a champion of females in motorsport, I love to see this. I love to see someone else coming in at the age of 58. She is no spring chicken, but my word, this experience that she can bring to the team, fascinating.
Yeah, absolute legend, Jutta Klein-Smit, Dakar rally winner. This was the final stage of the Dakar that she won. We spoke to her yesterday. She said she was so nervous. She didn't want to lose the Dakar on the last stage. She did a brilliant job then. She hits hyperdrive. Listen to that down the straight. RPM rises up. Timo Scheider out in Africa. You're, of course, the male championship driver. But it's the first time we've seen a championship driver used. And Jutta, I'm so excited to see her pace.
Yeah, she was nervous yesterday and she was late now on the turn-in after the beach area. So you see she's super wide, and you should see Daniel up next to me. He's going wild and he's like really pumped to see the lap time of his car. Matthias did well, and now we have to see what Jutta is capable of doing. She had the lap here with me on Monday. Now she had to analyze the new lines and the quickest lines. I'm really looking now what she's doing too.
Daniel, how are you feeling sitting there watching your car out there on track? How are we feeling?
I'm super excited. I mean, Matthias did a fantastic job. He's so calm and so good at what he does. But now seeing Jutta, I think is whatever she does, to take that challenge, to jump in and to perform. And I mean, watching that now, it looks not bad to me. You know, like it's a highlight to see that, and I'm impressed.
Timo, just hearing that the team are under investigation for a switch procedure, just how difficult is it if they haven't had the experience of practicing, they haven't worked together as a team? Is that switch difficult?
Well, it's 40 seconds, right? But the thing is, maybe I just saw that Matthias was helping out on the right-hand side and the mechanic on the left-hand side. Probably this is the reason why it's under investigation. I'm not sure. We have to see what the outcome is this. But for sure, this is always a different seat position, belt lengths, and all this stuff has to be adjusted. They have done practice yesterday night in terms of like driver change, so they should be more or less ready, or they have had it in time at least. But in the end of the day, when the pressure is there, everything is different, and suddenly it's also the first time for Jutta now. And Jutta is doing actually well when we see the sector times.
Yeah, this is an absolutely fantastic run. Look at this full commitment over the crest. Jutta Klein-Smit absolutely in Dakar winning mode. Daniel, this is a great run. Okay, they're under investigation for the switch, but let's not worry about that right now. Let's focus on the fact she's 6 seconds up on the guys who won round 1.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to see that. The commitment, I mean, I spoke to her before the run, and you could tell, I mean, I thought she would be scared or at least nervous, but she was just happy. She was smiling. She was like, oh, I love to do this, and she's pushing. You can tell that she feels at home.
Daniel, when it comes to getting into that car, watching somebody else, we know it's very difficult. What can you do to support her, to support the team this weekend?
Well, I think the only thing I can really do is to give them a good feeling. You know, it's about being confident out there, knowing what to do, feeling backed by the team and everyone involved, and I think that's exactly the case. We really try to feel her at home from the beginning, to give her what she needs. And oh, look at that!
She is
sending it. Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm so impressed. Wow.
Wow, we're
this
impressed too.
This
is an absolutely brilliant run. Jutta Klein-Smit has been retired from motorsport for some time, has come on as a championship driver with Extreme alongside Timo Scheider, and he's absolutely in full send. She hit that jump the same way Sainz hit it earlier on today, also a Dakar winner, of course.
I'm so impressed. If you're one of the other teams in the paddock right now, you're thinking, OK, we have a problem on our hands because the reserve driver is killing it.
And if you're one of us, you sit there and think, what a fantastic weekend we have on our hands, because we have so many teams competing at the very, very top. The sharp end of this is going to be fascinating. Can Jutta keep this up as she comes around the final part of this course? She's going to give it all she can as she rounds past the sand flicking up as she heads towards the Atlantic Ocean. This is where we saw Jamie Chadwick in Veloce with a big smile on her face because she knew she'd managed it. She'd had a great roll so far. So Jutta comes round. What will she do on this beach straight?
4 seconds up, 4.5 now, gets onto the throttle, going to drop the car down onto the sandy section. Up now again, heading towards the finish line. Flat out now, 4.5. What can they do? Can they take it to the top of the table? Christopherson and Taylor, winners of round 1. But Ekstrom and Kleinsmith, I think, are going to beat that time. Here we go. Top of the table, Ekstrom, Kleinsmith and Abt Cooper are the fastest. Kleinsmith jumps into the car after Hurtgen is withdrawn on medical grounds yesterday and immediately goes fastest. That is a hell of a job by the Dakar legend. Brilliant.
So let's have a look at what happened in the switch zone. This is under investigation. We don't have a result from Scott Elkins and Race Command yet. Stewards looked at it, so you can see she went forward into that zone. It was very clear in race director's notes. You weren't allowed to make that move into the zone until car was stopped and in neutral. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this team. But this could hurt their chances because at the moment they have set the fastest time, and a penalty to that could really damage them.
Yeah, I think probably they'll end up losing fastest time. I mean, it's not ideal, but I think in terms of pace, yeah, that is so promising for the rest of the weekend. It's just a switch infringement. You know, they're going to come out of this feeling really confident either way. X44 up next. Lewis Hamilton's squad, Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez. Challenging all weekend last time in Saudi before they then had a slight issue with the car in the final. Power steering meant that they weren't able to be in the mix for the win. They will want to be in the mix here this weekend, and I'm expecting them to challenge at the top of the table. Have a look. Super sector, right-hand side, look, Rosberg racing the fastest through there. That's the middle sector of the track, and any driver in any session can take that super sector prize. It's 5 championship points. This man would be a good bet. Sebastian Loeb, 9-time World Rally Champion. I'll tell you what, you wouldn't bet against his teammate Gutierrez either, because she was absolutely rapid in Saudi. Jenny, it's so close at the top of the table, but I'm expecting these guys to slot in up there as well.
Yeah, let's see what they can do, because this is going to be a fascinating matchup, because everybody at the moment is so close. Look at the timings of the top 3. Not a lot to separate them, bearing in mind it takes almost 11 minutes to go around this track. Well, almost exactly 11 minutes. So let's see, what can Sebastian Loeb do? He's already in a live position of number 1. He's going the fastest out there. Lewis Hamilton will be watching on as the team boss, hoping that both Loeb and Gutierrez can really set out the start of a very good weekend.
Well, Loeb quickest at the moment already, just a quarter of a second in it, but sign of the class, the guy. There is a passenger seat, no co-driver. Of course, Loeb will have been used to a co-driver for his entire career in rally and then moving on to Rally Raid as well. Don't forget another driver who's been competing in the Dakar, competed this year. Co-driver this time, Gutierrez, not sharing the car physically, but will be jumping in soon.
Yeah, and that union between the two, so important, as we've already seen from Taylor Christopherson, from Kleinschmidt, Ekstrom. You've got to work together in this championship to get the best out of the car. Setup, compromises, seating compromises, all of those things come together. You've got to make sure your best starters in the car when you want them. All of these things, it's a thinking person's game. Going through the June section and the mogul run, 10 and 11, you get a little bit of air sometimes, just see how the cars deal with these, all slightly different.
If the teams who made the final last time make the final again, it will be fascinating, because
they've all chosen to go with the driver who started the final last time to start the semi-final, Jenny, meaning that when come the final, it will be their teammates who are in the car, and that's going to be brilliant. So we're going to see a semi-final clash, which is only going to see 2 of those teams go through from each semi, then 4 cars into the final. We could potentially see 4 drivers who have slightly less experience than the stars. That, for me, is great because it's equal. It's going to be equal between them.
Yeah, a few changes to the rules this weekend, but good changes that mean the championship is pressing on. Nothing stands still for too long in this game, and we heard earlier, didn't we? Everybody is loving watching these cars, is loving watching the drivers, the versatility that they're having to show, and Loeb showing exactly why he is one of the best in the world. Time difference coming up now. He's over 2 seconds ahead of Ekstrom and his time when he was out there. So let's see how he handles this section. Lots of different lines. He's going wide right. We've seen people go through the middle. People go to the left as well. He'll cross over now. Oh, look at that.
It's quick,
beautiful.
Jenny. It's quick. They took another couple of tenths of a second there, so that he was up about 2.5. Clips the 23 flag. It just about stays up, so you can clip it, no problem. You knock it down, you get investigated. But there was definitely a half second there, and the other teams won't have missed that. They'll just be watching and go, okay, maybe that line's better.
I just wonder how easy it is to try and replicate the line of somebody else. If you're used to driving a line, if you've done that in practice and shakedown, and all of a sudden you see there's a huge advantage, or a small advantage in this case, because they're all so close together, how easy it is to go, oh, I know, I'll do that too.
They'll be noting the gate numbers, and I think that will be what the drivers will do, is they'll look and they'll say, okay, what did Loeb do through here? Why was he half a second quicker? Sometimes it's just a little bit more commitment on the brakes, or over a crest, a little bit more risk taken. But those alternate lines, it won't be missed by the top teams, definitely. The teams who are on it will be watching for those alternates and thinking whether or not it might work for them.
So you can see 29, 30 on the flags. That helps us know exactly where they are out on the course. 33, the last one of the last flags they'll go through. So this, the deep sand section, the sand flicking up from the right of the car as he goes down, nails this, a double right-hander towards the Atlantic Ocean, and then the fast run down to that switch zone where Gutierrez will be waiting for him, and they'll want to try and make sure there are no mistakes, no infringements, no penalties for speeding when they go in there, on the limiter hard, on the brakes hard. And you can just see that line they're taking. It won't stay there for long for anyone else to copy, because the waves and the wash will come and take it all. Through the water he goes. Love it.
Loeb up to the switch zone. He was about 3 seconds up as he approached the final sectors. That's late on the brakes by Loeb. You saw a big puff of sand just as he locked up in the final part of that zone. Sand is so hard to judge the brakes on, because you bury the nose of the car in it and it will suck the pace out of the car very quickly. So you can brake a lot later than you think, but you cross that 30 sign going quicker and you're going to end up getting a penalty. 2 seconds up, Jenny.
What a marker that has laid down in the sand, quite literally. So Loeb comes in, Gutierrez just holds. They make sure that they actually hold her. She's got her seat insert ready to go. Those glasses that wrap around, just showing beautifully the sea, and Loeb powering out of the car.
Practically falling out the car, wasn't he? Dived out the side of the car like he was on a skydive, but he got the job done.
This very indicative of like a world endurance race, where the driver getting out helps the driver getting in. Make sure they're established. 40 seconds on the clock to remind you. Super sector up, and so far X44 have just set that fastest so far of the weekend.
That's really quick on the change there. I would say the quickest driver change we've seen, and you can see Gutierrez having plenty of time now just to sit and gather her thoughts and get ready to go. Releases the car. You can see as well that they've put the elastic bands on the belt, going from her waist back to behind the seat. That's a band which pulls the belts off.
On the track, but no big mistakes. It was good.
It was good.
It was good, indeed. It was very good. They're 1.2 seconds up as they leave the switch zone. Timo Scheider, I believe, is still with us out in Senegal. Timo, if
yes, I am.
Yeah, you're there. Okay, so Timo, talk to us about those alternate lines. You're one of the drivers who's helped to set this track up. Oh, so sad to see the waste on the beach there, issues to deal with. But yeah, the alternate lines, are we going to see people being able to race through the middle section of the track? Because that's what we think here.
Well, basically, I think there are a few options, so it's not 100% clear where you have to go. That's the nice thing. This is what we're trying to focus on, to give different options, to have options, and especially for Sunday race, when we have like 4-car races, for sure you will see different lines, and for sure this takes a bit of time to analyze the right direction. It's not 100% clear all the time, and this is something I really like to see. That was one of our focus after Saudi Arabia. So let's see what they will choose on Sunday. But this is for sure a big challenge. They analyze everything by video they have done on the recce, let's say on the track walk, track drive, and then they have the onboards now from rollout and stuff. So I saw a couple of drivers still this morning at breakfast analyzing different lines.
You can see there 3.76 seconds, and the difference goes up again. So they're really pulling the pace now, and they're leading the way with in first position going down the jump section. And Daniel Abt also in the commentary box with us. Daniel, there are some big names attached to this championship, the likes of, we've already seen Nico Rosberg in the command centre, Lewis Hamilton's team here as well. The pressure is on these drivers, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Big names, big teams, big drivers, but also some younger ones, and I'm always a big fan of seeing young people star and get a chance. And I feel like last time already in Saudi Arabia we've seen Katie Munnings, you know, and just the young ladies really doing amazing stuff out there, and I love these kind of stories, and I think the mix is what makes this championship really exciting.
Gutierrez is pushing so hard. She found a couple of seconds in the double right-hander at the back of the course as they headed into the moguls. The gap went up from 0.3 seconds to 5. She finds another 2 seconds there, burying the underguard of the car, and another second again. Gutierrez is absolutely flying on this lap. Guys out there in Senegal, what are you seeing? How is she taking this time off the others?
Yeah, she's taking a lot of risk, and you saw the big drops. She went just more or less flat, so she jumped to the flat part after the drop. So that's a lot of commitment she's taking, but we knew she will be quick. She was quick in Saudi. She's doing a lot of X-rate stuff, so she is probably the one to watch it if you are focusing on the girls.
10 seconds quicker now, nearly 11. Gutierrez is flying, using all that Dakar Rally experience to great effect here, picking her lines, picking the crest, carrying that pace perfectly.
Yeah, stage winner this year, following in the footsteps of Jutta Kleinschmidt. What can she do here? I think she might knock them off the top spot. So you can have an inspiration and idol, but when you can beat them and show them, what an amazing opportunity.
We were seeing 3 cars within a couple of seconds of each other. We then saw Kleinschmidt and Ekstrom go just that little bit quicker. But Loeb and Gutierrez here for X44 are resetting the benchmark big time.
Yeah, you really feel like the pressure's going to be mounting on the next 3 cars that are going to come up. But let's take a look at what Gutierrez can do. This is a bit of masterclass, isn't it? She's showing exactly how you can take this Odyssey 21, a heavy car, 1,780 kilograms of a car, but she's handling it beautifully around this course, which, let's face it, she's had very little time on so far. This is the first qualifying session, so doing an amazing job out there.
It's that Dakar Rally experience, isn't it? Covering hundreds of kilometres in a day, only ever seeing any section of the course once. She's reading the road beautifully, reading the camber, reading the crest, just how much pace she can carry. Big armful of opposite lock. Round the right-hander now, 9.73 seconds up. This is a great drive by Gutierrez on the back of Sebastian Loeb, and she's going to be flat out now down to the line. They're going to go fastest, Jenny.
Yeah, they certainly are. They are setting the new benchmark here in this amazing backdrop of Senegal. Look at her going through the finishing line. She's going to absolutely nail this, and what an impressive display from Gutierrez and Loeb. 10 seconds ahead of everybody else. Let's go down, get an interview. Layla is there for us, pit lane reporting. Let's have a listen to what she's got to say.
You've just received a round of applause here at the command centre, Seb. A brilliant run.
Yeah, I think we did a good run. I pushed hard, no big mistakes. Christina did a great job too, so at the moment we are leading. Still 3 cars to come, so we don't know, but I think we should be in the semi-final one. That would be a tough fight to get to the final.
I'm sure that's exactly what you wanted. Some words on Gutierrez and her commitment there in that lap.
Sorry?
Some words on Gutierrez and her commitment in that lap.
Yeah, she did very well. She was stressed before the start when she saw the other driving, she had the pressure, and finally I think the pressure was good for her. She pushed really hard, did a great job, so really happy. Good start for the weekend.
Great performance under pressure. Thank you very much.
Take a look back at some of the action from this session. Kristoffersen releases the handbrake and launches the Odyssey 21. Smooth on the throttle, and then you could hear the chattering of the transmission. That's where he's lit the throttle up a bit more, and there's a bit more wheel spin. You saw him wait, and then when he got all the grip, he released the hyperdrive and maximised that extra power down the straight.
Kristoffersen saying he wasn't that happy with the feel of the car when he went out yesterday for practice and shakedown. It didn't look too bad, but I think there's more to be found for Johan across the course of this weekend. I don't think he displayed all that he has in this qualifying session, so it'll be really interesting to see how it all stacks up at the end and how much more they'll have to push.
Yeah, and yesterday's shakedown, he was some sort of 5 seconds off the pace of the very top times. We saw them quickest everywhere in Saudi, bar the penalty that they got, so they will be sitting down in front of the laptops, watching the onboards, watching the other runs and seeing what they can do. Ekstrom with a new teammate.
Yep. Alongside Jutta Kleinschmidt, championship driver, 58-year-old, coming in 2001. She became the first female Dakar Rally winner on this very stretch of beach. She managed to do that, so a great addition to the team. Claudia Hertgen, unfortunately with a virus, so she's had to sit this one out. So we wish her very well, but Matthias Ekstrom doing a good job. Unfortunately, a little bit early maybe for Jutta, still under investigation.
Yeah, that's one thing, of course, Jutta is not used to. She hasn't done a driver switch. She didn't compete in Saudi. She was there. She'll know the rules. She's the championship driver. But you saw her run out. You saw her pause. It's going to come down to what the stewards feel about that. You know, they were leading the session. I think potentially at that point you might have said, OK, we need a penalty here because you can't win the session if you've broken the rules. But they were then beaten by these guys. They were beaten by X44. So maybe the stewards will go, do you know what? There wasn't an advantage gained. There wasn't any safety issue, and they might let her off. We'll see.
So Loeb and Gutierrez next up to tackle this beach course, and my word, did they put in a display. Sebastian Loeb, so experienced when it comes to Dakar, World Championship Rally, all of the things that he's got in his sort of locker really that can give him a really good sound weekend. It's no wonder Lewis Hamilton went out there and went for Sebastian Loeb, went for Cristina Gutierrez, because my word, what a pairing these two make.
Multiple world champion signs multiple world champion. I mean, Loeb and Hamilton have got the most impressive records of FIA World Championships of any drivers in the world. But I think the master choice was Gutierrez, because absolutely flying on her lap, destroyed everybody else.
Yeah, really impressive pairing to set the fastest time so far. 6 of our teams have competed. They lead them all. So we have the next group of qualifiers for you. This is the third and final group in qualifying one. We have first up Chip Ganassi. Yes, we are very excited to welcome these guys to the track because I have to say yesterday they looked rapid. Carl Leduc, Sarah Price lining up. We wonder who'll be in the car first, because so far the only team to have run their female first has been Veloce. So this will be a really interesting, because it's all about tactics this weekend, and they are off for the Segi TV Chip Ganassi team.
I'm sure we'll get an onboard in a moment and confirm which driver is at the wheel as they head down Beach Straight for the first time. Sarah Price. Full concentration mode. I was looking to see if she was going to use hyperdrive. Maybe they're thinking use it on the run to the finish. Now, they ran Sarah first last time as well, Jenny. I think the interesting thing with Chip Ganassi Racing is that both drivers are used to the off-road, long game, cars at intervals. Sarah's done probably, I suppose they've both done I would say neither of them has done traditional race starts like we would talk about in Europe in quite the same way as circuit racing. Interesting that Veloce put Chadwick out first. That, to me, is a massive nod towards the fact they know Chadwick will kill it in the start.
I think we've seen some very aggressive driving out there from both of the team members, and I think it's fascinating to see what their long-term strategy is. We both disagreed as well. You thought you'd put your fastest starter in the semi.
Yeah.
I thought I'd go with my fastest for the final. So it does go to show there's a little bit of difference out there. The birds flying around out there as the car comes through, just about to enter what is one of the most exciting sections for me, where they're up, they're down. It's through the moguls, and this is where it really challenges the car.
So I'm taking a look back at the times from yesterday, and Chip Ganassi Racing did a couple of, Segi TV, Chip Ganassi, both drivers did a couple of practice starts. So Sarah Price, rear end of the car, kicking up hard. So they only came P4 in terms of the timings yesterday in free practice. But, crucially, when we looked at the individual times in between the waypoints, Kyle Leduc absolutely destroyed everybody. He destroyed them. He had more pink-purple sectors than anybody else. Sarah Price was really quick too. So we think this pairing can definitely challenge Jenny.
But I think when I was looking at them, it was quite a different style of driving for me. For both Price and Leduc, they were driving almost as if the obstacles in their way weren't there. They were just going flat out, gunning it, and kind of like a really challenging course they just made look, you know, quite easy. It was different to me.
The type of cars these both of them are used to driving over in the States are very capable of over multiple terrains flat out. So I think potentially maybe went a bit too hard in Saudi, and if anything, we'll dial it back here. But Leduc was particularly impressive during the last sector of the track. Sarah Price here about 6.8 down on the ultimate fastest time, but doing a brilliant job. And yesterday, completely holding her own in terms of lap time. We saw, didn't we, there was very little change in the gap once she'd done her practice start, which she did on the start, finished straight and lost that time. She then maintained the gap the whole way round. I say I'm expecting them to be up there. If you look at the top three, they're separated by 15 seconds. So X44 with that incredible run by Loeb and Gutierrez. Now, I mean, that's what we're going up against here. That's going to be very hard for anybody to match. They've only got to be within 10 seconds to take P2, within 15 to take P3, and at the minute, they're only just under 9 seconds back.
Now, this is the bit yesterday where I think this team took the most advantage out of the course, because it was here that they really hammered through from about gate 23 onwards, and they made up some time. So interesting to look at this live count that we can see. So yes, here we go. She started to post green sectors, so showing she's going faster. The number 6 shows where they are in the order currently. So I'm expecting them to really press on now with this section of the course and try and find some sort of an advantage as they go through the dunes and come through this fast sweeping section, which has got a lot of the deeper sand around it.
So Sarah's actually competed in Africa before. She did the Rally de Gazelles, which is a women-only rally over here a few years ago now, but she's also been a 19-time motocross champion before switching to cars in 2012. First ever female driver for Chip Ganassi Racing, score trophy trucks, stunt driver, you know, in a perfect position to be able to take time off people in this sector, in any sector on the track.
Really big weekend for this team, the All-American team. Of course, it is the Indy 500 this weekend, so a lot of people's eyes will be on that straight after this. It's like a fiesta of football and motorsport this weekend. You can really get yourself stuck into it and get excited about it. You can see she's gone and gained a place now, so the live standings show her they'd slot into P5.
10 seconds down as they stand, but remember that's P5 based on the first lap. And if you look at the issues that everybody had on their second lap, so Andretti, Acciona, we saw as well the times for Veloce. I think they'll challenge the top 3 personally, especially if Leduc now does what he did yesterday. So 12.88 down as they come into the switch zone. And you can see the elastics here. Look at Sarah's belts. When she takes those belts off, those elastics will pull the belts up high immediately to allow Kyle just to jump straight into the car.
So this, the switch zone, 40 seconds goes on the clock. The driver comes in, you can see there Leduc almost like the lollipop man in Formula 1 saying, here's your stop, come into this bay, because there are different bays that they can go into. So this is the switch, digs down on the brakes. As soon as she's in neutral, there we go, off he goes, and Kyle Leduc raises the window. You can see she takes off the steering wheel to enable Kyle to get in.
First time we've seen someone take the wheel off, and that just goes in. And in fact, Kyle, you can see, puts one hand on the steering column to get himself into the car. They couldn't see the lights on the front of the car. They were waiting for the flashing lights to see what was when the car was in neutral. Interestingly, the engineer takes a look under the rear left quarter of the car. So having a look maybe in there at the dampers. Kyle Leduc now getting the belts pulled on tight. Sarah Price plugs in his radio. Door down. Sarah out the way, and they'll be good to release. Kyle checks the wheels in place. You can see he's going to get the car into position. Looks across to the right-hand side and releases. Here we go. Are we going to see maximum attack again from Kyle Leduc like we saw yesterday? To be fair, like we saw in every run in Saudi, no lifting.
Yep, off the limiter then. 30 kilometres an hour, that's long gone. These cars can go super fast, accelerating up to 100 kilometres an hour in 4.5 seconds down that beach straight. I wonder if he's going to use his hyperdrive here. I don't see him reaching for it at the moment, so maybe they're looking to use that slightly later on, maybe coming down to the finishing line, but a nice little bit of air for Kyle there, which I haven't seen from too many of the other drivers, so maybe it's cutting up a little bit down on the sand, or maybe he's taking a slightly different line.
Backing of Hummer, of course, which is why they've changed the bodywork on the front of the car to give a nod towards the electric future for Hummer. Huge off-road vehicles. Looking forward to seeing what they come up with electrics. They're gaining time already. So he's gone green on the sector time, and I'm expecting Leduc to have a big attack the whole way round. Reigning Pro 4 champion, 7 times Pro 4. That's short course truck racing. This really is his kind of territory. We didn't see the best of this team in Saudi Arabia, and they were the team I was most keen to see how quick they could go here.
Yeah, 11 points on the board for them so far. They're down in 8th place in the table, so this needs to, in a way, be a kind of drive back into the top to show, as you said, what they can do, how impressive they can be out there. Ganassi don't get involved with everything. They've chosen Extreme E, they've chosen to come here, and my word, they've chosen to be very exciting around this course. They look phenomenal. Big weekend for Chip, isn't it? He was out with the championship last time in Saudi. I suspect he'll be at Indy this weekend. I can totally understand that decision. But he'll have an eye on this as well. Another green sector, not taking huge chunks of time off, Jenny, just little bits here and there, but he is pushing. Yeah, not yet, and you can see the live position up 1, so into 4th now as it stands, and that will keep continuing live as we go round this course, and you can see exactly how he is now. So 13 seconds the difference, trying to claw back, and he is doing that because the box is lit up in green, which means he is on a charge. Leduc pushing hard through the woods section. He'll go round the double right-hander, kicks the sand up really high. It's this next portion of the track which you need to watch for. So yesterday he was purple sectors the entire way through the second half of the track. So he came down the back straight once he went through there and into the dunes section. That rhythm section, Jenny, that we've seen people take so quickly. And that was where Leduc was carrying the pace. Look at this, he's on maximum attack. Kyle Leduc pushing so hard now. How much time is he making up? 12.68 back. He's got to keep taking seconds off them every time he passes a waypoint. You've got to ask, though, is it too hard? We've seen before that Kyle Leduc has pushed too hard and too far, and the car wasn't able to tolerate it. So it's a balance. It's got to be so fine, so accurate on managing to risk and reward. We've spoken about it so far. The wheels are turning. This is an exciting display. Come on, Leduc. Big, big push. Takes another second off. Takes a camera out as well over the crest. Back into the car. Kicks up high. Kyle Leduc is in his element here. This is trophy truck business. Maximum attack 9.85. He's taken 3 seconds off in that last sector. This is where he was so quick yesterday. Buries the nose of the car again. Over the crest to the left and the right. Another second, Jenny. He's chasing them down. He is, and he's swerving all over the place, but it doesn't seem to matter. Whatever you do with Kyle, it doesn't matter because he still sets those fast times. It almost looks as if he can't be setting a faster time because the back swinging left, it's swinging right, but it doesn't matter because he is on fire out there. 7.89 is the sector difference now. It comes down to 5.27 and he puts it into second. 5.27 back. Kyle Leduc chasing down the time of X44. Chip Ganassi racing with Segi TV and Hummer runs a little bit wide
out towards the outer edges of the track here. What's it going to be as he crosses through this next section? 4.74 is the gap. Leduc is showing he is the master of the end of this part of the course. 3.62 seconds now. This would be for the top qualifier spot at the end of Q1. They won't be on the radio to tell him. He just knows to push. Look, he looks super relaxed. Got a couple of right hands to go. Loses half a second.
Yeah, but what can he do along this? He's got to get the entry to this straight well. He's got to pick his line perfectly. We've seen a lot of people utilising that sand. It's really compacted, and he is going for this. What will he be able to do when he crosses the line? At the moment, second place. He uses his hyperdrive. That's the moment he's been waiting for. He saved it up for this point so he can get that extra boost. 4 seconds of hyperdrive. He pushes himself towards the line, and what will it be?
P2. P2 for Price and Leduc. Segi TV, Chip Ganassi Racing, proving they had the pace we thought they had in Saudi. Brilliant drive by Sarah Price and Carl Leduc. Wow, that commitment through that third sector. We saw it yesterday on the timing sheets. It was like, really? Did he really do that many sectors quicker than anybody else? But he did, and he did it again this time. Almost quickest time. They're just 4.23 down. P2.
A brilliant run by both of you there. We've seen full commitment and flow state. How was it for you?
It was good. We feel good on the track. It's definitely up our alleys of what we're used to. So we did good all the way around. I feel like we're very solid and we're in a good position going into the next race.
And great to see a good full lap by Kyle out there.
Yeah, definitely. We both, you know, that was the goal this weekend, is just make it to the end and have a good finish.
Thank you very much.
So impressive there from Sarah Price. Sarah Price, I keep getting it wrong. I apologise to her. Sarah Price doing a great job for the team. Carl Leduc as well, showing you just put your foot down, you keep the aggression in. It wasn't quite enough to go P1, but I tell you what, they are an exciting couple to watch out there, just to see the flow, the aggression, and they're loving it. I love the fact that Sarah's got this big smile. Super sector there, you can also see, Andrew, do you want to explain that one?
Well, Segi TV, Chip Ganassi Racing going quickest, and I would suggest that was probably Kyle on that last run, seeing as how many green lights he lit up. So that is the middle sector of the track. It's the only sector which is the same for every driver. And on every single run, any driver can go to the top of that table, right through to the final at the end of the weekend. Whoever gets that fastest sector, the team gets 5 championship points. So that is a healthy bonus of points, and I think it's worth taking a bit of a risk for. This was the run for Segi TV, Chip Ganassi Racing. No clean runs, so to speak, or really out in Saudi Arabia. We knew that both Sarah Price and Carl Leduc, who I think we can call them off-road racing royalty in the States. You know, they're the royal family of off-road racing, I've just decided, and it was a brilliant display, Jenny.
Yeah, majestic, wasn't it? They went around there, and it didn't look like it was a tidy lap particularly, because the back end swinging out, sand kicking up. But I tell you what, that is clearly what is working for them, and what works technique-wise for some isn't the same as others.
They've just got it dialed, haven't they? However they've got the car set up for, it was absolutely brilliant. Carl Leduc through the right-hander, the double right-hander in the woods, was brilliant, and then engaged the hyperdrive right at the end of that. Wasn't quite enough to go fastest, but straight into P2. They're 4.23 off. They are contenders.
One minute.
Okay, so we've got just, how many cars have we got left? 2 cars to go. JBXE going to be up next, followed by Excite Racing. JB, of course, with a different driver this weekend, Jenny.
How excited are you to see Kevin Hansen, birthday boy, turned 23 yesterday in this car? I mean, it's a clever move from Jenson Button, deciding to put someone else in the car around this course. Do you rate Hansen?
Very much so. Kevin Hansen is someone who'll be super familiar to any rallycross fans out there. He has been European Rallycross champion. He won Nitro Rallycross in 2019, the one-off shootout event in the States. He's a weapon. He's very good indeed. Him and his brother have got right into each other's doors when they've raced in the same team, and I'm really keen to see Kevin race Timmy. Now they're in different teams. We saw the order come in from Jenson Button this morning on social media. I'm just looking for the tweet now, but I think it just said, you know, go flat out, basically. I'll find it. I will find it and see exactly what the order was to the team. But good to see Jenson is not saying, oh, look after the car, Kevin.
Yeah, the car's sitting down there when Kevin started. Of course, he doesn't have the benefit of all the experience that the other team members got when they were out in Saudi. So for Kevin, didn't get a tester in the car. His first time out in it was last time. He tested a long time ago, didn't he?
He did. Here we go. I've got the tweet from Jensen. Give it large, and then the muscle arm emoji. So I mean,
that sound very Jensen Button, give it large, but I love it.
That's great. That's what you want from your team boss, isn't it? You really do.
Yeah, a little bit of motivation. We've got a lot of people involved in this championship who have had Formula One experience, bringing that to their teams, bringing that focus, determination and drive that you get across motorsport.
It was a last-minute change, which is why you can see Kevin Hansen not in JBXE overalls. He's in his World Rallycross overalls. Going to be trying really hard here. They are only 0.78 down. Look, so Kevin is absolutely bang on the pace. But to be fair, the first part of the lap not quite so important. Interesting to me where they've got the comms lead up quite high there. I suspect this is over towards our side. So it looks like that would be a big distraction. Timo Scheider and Jean-Eric Verne are out in Senegal for us. Looking forward to seeing how quick Kevin is. Do you think he can challenge?
Well, Kevin was pretty good yesterday already when he had the first laps out there. But for sure, it takes your time to adapt to the track, to adapt to... Oh, and he had a moment there. He lost the rear a bit. He will be quick, I'm pretty sure. Michaela had to step up a bit, I guess, from yesterday to today. But both of them are doing better. Today, I'm pretty sure. Sorry. This is still exciting to see these cars jumping and bumping around. And you see the rear end of the car of Kevin is really loose. So this is the challenge. You have to accept this is happening. And if you can deal with it, and if you take the risk, you have to deal with it at a certain point. And like we saw with Kyle Leduc, he's the one probably to have the most risk in his pocket. But he was quite calm, I have to say. The first half of the lap and the second half looked like yesterday outstanding. And now Kevin Hansen is also on the fly. He's taking a bit of risk, but like we discussed before, we have to get it to the line before we talk if it was a good or a bad lap.
Timo, you've got Jean-Eric Verne next to you, 2 times Formula E champion. And what do you think of this, Jean-Eric? You've been in command centre, you've been standing there with your team at Veloce. What do you reckon?
Well, I absolutely love it. I'm so pleased to be here for the first time. I could not come to Saudi, so I think it's amazing to see those cars driving. I tested the car and I have to say, I'm very impressed with the level of the drivers, what they do. I'm not sure I could be doing that. So, no, it's very surprising and I'm loving it.
I love that you're loving it. Just tell me, in the command centre, how tense is it? Describe to us what it feels like to be there, because it's quite unique that you've got 3 teams all together that you're competing against.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and especially, last time we were out, we had some problem with the car. We crashed it, so since we were the first one out this morning, and it was the first time I saw this car actually live, I was kind of a little bit tense, but I think the drivers did a good job. I think it was important that sorry, that they could get a lap. I mean, 2 laps in, which was not the case in Saudi. And now it's a question of building the confidence and getting faster and faster, which is what they're going to do. So so far everything has been okay.
Timo, Jean-Eric, thank you. We'll come back to you in a moment. So Kevin Hansen lighting up a green sector through there. So he's certainly getting his head around the car. He did a bit of testing early days with it. You can see the concentration on his face. I'll tell you 2 people to be super nervous right now. I know Kenneth Hansen, Susan Hansen, Timmy and Kevin's parents are watching back in Sweden. Hey to you guys. Must be so proud to have both their sons here. Everybody wants to see them racing side by side. I wonder what the parents are going to think about that. That would be nerve-wracking times. But for Kevin, this is a great performance. Fair amount of pressure here, Jenny. When a driver like Jensen Button, a Formula One world champion who owns and runs the team, says, could you step in for me this weekend? You want to make sure you get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to impress. You also want to make sure that you're not going too crazy out there. Just looking at that comms lead, though, that would be annoying the heck out of me, just having it bouncing around in your peripheral vision.
I've seen some interest. Yeah, there's been some questionable positioning of leads for me. There was one yesterday that was coming in across the waist, and you can catch that with your arm. You've got to get that bang on. There's a lot more flailing about going on an off-road vehicle than there is, for instance, in a in a circuit racing car, something like WEC, where you can have the comms lead and it'll hide it away. But I suspect it's further off to the right than we think it is. So yeah, it does. It's in the corner of your eye. I'm not someone who has a magic tree hanging off the wing mirror. You know, you don't want anything in your peripheral vision, do you? You know, you want to be fully focused on the drive.
Have some fluffy dice. Okay,
No,
look into
no.
the switch zone. Let's see what happens here. Arlen Kotelinski standing by. They're currently in 6th position. Again, the wave of the hand just from the one mechanic who's allowed into the zone to signal exactly which bay to pull into. Frustratingly slow. 30 kilometers an hour is the speed limit in there. You press your speed limiter, should mean that you can't go any faster, and you pull into the bay. This is something that, again, won't have had too much practice in because Hansen wasn't at the last round. But let's see what they can do when it comes to the switch. Into neutral, off they go.
So Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski has got her seat insert there. Kevin does a good job. We said this yesterday. Reach up, release the shoulder straps before you release the stomach. So if you release the buckle in the middle, lengthening those belts is really hard work, and he did the classic hold eye the buckle. Swedish passing the notes across. Unfortunately, my Swedish is terrible. Feel free to tweet us and let us know what was said. But Kevin just handing just a little bit of information across to Michaela as she jumps into the car. He then gets out of the way, and now she tightens the buckles back up. Comms lead will be in. This is a good driver change. Hopefully have time to set. Look at that as well. Tight. You need the belts in really tight, particularly with the undulation in off-road.
When you're bouncing around this much, yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed with Arlen Kotelinski last time out. Thought for someone that I didn't know too much about, coming into a big pressure team like Jensen Buttons, that she did a really good job. So fascinating to see how she goes around this. What is a very different course with all the sand still the same like last time, but this is very technical, very twisty.
Coming from a circuit racing background, yes, that's the challenge, isn't it? You've come from the smooth tracks, hitting apexes, hitting braking points, and suddenly you're in this world of the rear end getting fired up in the air, driving down a beach at 100-something kilometres an hour. It's a spectacular change.
Yeah, it really is.
One of our Hawks jumping out the way there, just at the end of the straight, braking zone now and into the right-hander, got to get the car rotating. That braking zone's getting quite cut up, Jenny. We'd expect that. It's a high-speed braking zone into a low-speed corner.
Yeah, absolutely. She is the XC Continental test driver. She was before the championship started, so plenty of experience on these tyres, which was a bold and brave move from Jensen Button to go, yep, you can be my colleague in this, well be teammates together. Hansen coming in this weekend, and the Swedish duo currently in 5th, but only 16 seconds back. Let's see what they can do now.
Let's have a quick chat on site again. Jean-Eric Verne out in Senegal for us. Jean-Eric, if you were going to switch across and have a crack at off-road, you know, the learning curve Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski and the circuit racers are on is pretty steep. What steps would you take? You know, how do you go about learning something so different? Well, you seem to have lost contact.
Drive stays at 400, but
we've lost contact out there with the guys on site, so. Big moment for Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski at the top of the hill there, and digs the sump guard in again, coming down 3 times on the dips there, so not holding back through this dip section.
Just see the sand pouring off, can't you, from the front where it's wedged in, and then it streams out almost like water coming into the car and being shifted away from the force of it. Getting some nice speed through this section, which is really bumpy. You've got to watch the rear end. We saw yesterday during practice that a few of the drivers taking far too much speed and angle, and it just unsettles the car. And there is Michaela just wrestling, she's taking her hand off a little bit on the steering wheel, which is a surprise.
In there, so just one hand off to get a tiny bit of extra lock on one of the tightest corners in the course. We saw Leduc come through there and arc the sand high in the sky the whole way through. He's on throttle through the corner to get the car rotated, super confident in it. Arlen-Kotlinski's going well here. I'm impressed. I think this is a step up in performance from Saudi Arabia for her. You know, Jenny, we've already said, from that circuit racing background, every single kilometre in this car is going to make a difference to her pace. Being able to watch what the other drivers do, being able to talk to Jensen and now to Kevin, being able to look at the onboard. So the learning curve is steep, but professional drivers don't take long to get their heads around things.
No, and they have to move and react very quickly. And remember, this isn't a fixed track, really. You've got so much that changes and develops across the course of the weekend. What all of the drivers have experienced in this first qualifying session could be very different to the second session, as you say, as the course develops, evolves. With a track racing, you're looking at it, you know, rubbering in, but this very different development and evolve.
It's going to
evolution,
be
that's the word I'm looking for.
That's all good, don't worry. We're always looking, don't worry, I'm always searching for words I can't find. Yeah, massively. It changes every single lap. Literally, from when your teammate goes out to when you go out, the track is shifting.
So much frustration for the science team, the Acciona team, who will be looking on at this. They didn't get to finish their drive, even though they were absolutely flying. So they'll be looking, thinking, oh, what could have been? But I tell you what, we've got a great competition on our hands, and they are gaining against everybody else at the moment. Let's go back to Jean-Eric Verne. Hopefully he's there. And Jean-Eric, we were just asking...
Yeah, about what would you do to prepare yourself for this, Jean-Eric? You know, it's a big, steep learning curve.
You take this second one. Sorry, we are still discussing here about different lines, guys. Track is for sure developing in different ways, and I'm not sure if it's an advantage or disadvantage at some stages, but for sure you have to analyze this precisely after Q1 to see what the outcome or what the line should be maybe in Q2. It's not clear.
Good stuff. Okay, thanks ever so much, Timo. So just rounding out towards the end of this lap. Let's see what time they can post together. This, the penultimate car that we're going to see in qualifying 1.
Fighting the car through the last couple of corners. Big moment there for Arlen Kotlinski. Was 25 seconds down. This would see them going to P5, which I think would be a great result for them. On the power now, all the way down towards the finish line. Kotlinski can relax just a little bit. There's a double crest as she pops back up onto the top of the beach. You can see the predictor is showing P5, and I think that's going to be slotting in nicely. What is it in the end? Just 26 seconds down, so they're only 10 seconds off the pace of Kristoffersen and Taylor, who won round 1. So great drive by JBXE. Jenson Button, I think, is at home this weekend. I'm sure he'll be taking a keen interest in his drivers. Certainly the advice on Twitter has been heeded.
Sweaty palms watching that for him. It's so difficult to make the transition across from a driver to being anything else, stepping away from being a sports professional. But now he's gone into being a manager, being the boss of this team.
He did say he'll be back later in the car later on in the season as well. Looking forward to Jenson continuing to learn his craft, like his teammate Michaela Arlen Kotlinski. He's a big fan of off-road. We're going to head down to the command centre, I think, and have a chat. Let's see who Leila Anali has managed to grab for us.
Welcome to Extreme E. How was your first qualifier there?
Well, it was nice. It was very, very rough out there, but I'm happy with what I did, and I think we made a big improvement from yesterday's practice. So for sure we have a long way to go and a lot to work on compared to the others, but I think we are on the good way, and Michaela did a really nice job in the end. So I think together we put up a good lap.
We're noticing the course changing and evolving every time you go out there. Is that an advantage, a disadvantage? How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I just try to go as fast as I can when I'm out there, and whatever track is ahead of me, I try to use it. So for sure it's difficult when you don't know in the details. In rallycross you always know every angle of it, but here you have to take a bit as it comes and do the best with what you have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kevin does actually have some experience of a Baja-style event. He jumped in for Red Bull's junior team earlier on this year in a side-by-side buggy and went and did a long-distance event. So he will have learnt some of that reading the road as you go earlier on. Might have been late last year, but a little bit of experience of it. Obviously enjoying it, though. All smiles and a great result for them.
Qualifying leader at the moment. Here we go then. JBXE team taking to the track. First up, it was Kevin Hansen in the car, the birthday boy. What could he do? New into the team. Jenson Button taking on the team manager's role this weekend, and you can see trying to get to grips with the Odyssey 21.
Yeah, not an easy car to get to grips with. Timo Scheider told us that earlier on. But the point is, it's the same car and the same track for everyone, and that's the similar angle that we've seen of most of the cars. If you're wondering what the underside of an Odyssey 21 looked like, you're going to get plenty of opportunities to see that. And you can see the team really pleased with Kevin. Kevin will be relieved and pleased with that performance as well. But Michaela Arlen Kotlinski just clattering into the bank there, slightly sideways. Good job all the same. She was on the gas through the woods section. Yeah, great job.
Yeah, really impressive from her. She's shown some real development. I was impressed with her last time out in Saudi, and she's done the same again. Look at the car moving around, but posting a decent time. Well done to them.
Final car for Q1, round 2 of Extreme E from Senegal. Ollie Bennett and Christina GZ. Ollie taking the car off the start, renamed and a rebrand for the team, Excite Energy Racing. They've spent a fair bit of time together these last couple of weeks in Wales, practicing driving buggies, side-by-sides and rally cars. Ollie with a bit of a mistake there, getting the car a bit sideways. Jenny, they were kind of off the pace yesterday, but they went first and they didn't really have anybody to refer to.
Yeah, and if you just look at the way the track's developed, it's really developed across the course of qualifying one. So a very different circuit, really, to the one that they first tackled. It's always moving, always shifting in the sand, and that throws up a real question mark over how you tackle it best. But Bennett there, green sector, so managing to improve and push forward.
Yeah, they were going certainly better than they went yesterday. They came in 39 seconds down, and really ideally they wanted to go top 6. Remember, with the issues for Acciona, Sainz and Andretti United, there was just the Veloce racing car that they needed to beat, which was 50 seconds off the lead. At the moment, they were 11 seconds ahead. But that was quite a big ask for the second lap for Christine, because that was going up against Sarazan's time. We know Sarazan had pushed really hard on the second part of his run. Ollie had accidentally touched the button in the last corner and lost some time as well. So a few seconds lost here and there. They'll be desperate to gain that P6, Jenny, by the end of qualifying.
And they will see that as a really realistic opportunity to get into semi-final, to get into the semi-finals tomorrow in semi-final 2, which is what they'll want to do. They'll want to avoid that final group, which goes into the shootout. So a really clear target for both for Christine and for Oliver. And I think that really helps when you're getting into the car for the second part of qualifying, knowing exactly what you've got to do to get through.
Yeah, and they'll have the advantage again, I think, of being able to see what happens to everybody else before and manage that risk. They will know by now they're not going to challenge for the top of the tables. That's not, you now have to set targets which are, you know, like a mid-pack team would in a race series. They need to set a target which is realistic. They did a brilliant job last time out making it through to the semis, and that's got to be the aim again here. Get to the semis and see what happens. 2 cars from each of the 3 car semis go up. They could make it all the way to the 4-car final. So it's a good job. They need to push a little bit harder in Q2 later on today.
So here we are with the last car of the day. Oliver, here we are with the Chip Ganassi team taking the final section of this qualifying one, and off they go, fast out the gates. What a start.
Yeah, it was Sarah Price who took the wheel for the first part of their lap. We were expecting big things from Chip Ganassi Racing in Saudi Arabia, and they had a couple of issues. Kyle had an off during shakedown, then they had some issues from rebuilding the car, which slowed them down in qualifying. They ended up in the shootout, and of course, that didn't go well either. So it was a weekend to forget. They had 8 weeks to reset. They were both competing over in America, and you can see they were up for action. Sarah Price was pretty much on the pace. Kyle Leduc absolutely killed it on his lap. He really did, and they ended up so close to the pace of X44. And I think Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez will have one eye on that squad, definitely, as everybody else will too.
Yeah, Kevin Hansen next up for the JBXE team. Hansen, a late substitute, the 23-year-old coming in for Jenson Button, who takes the managerial role this weekend, alongside Michaela Arlen-Kotelinski as well. They knew exactly what they needed to do when they took to the track. It's just whether they could put it together with Kevin being so new to this championship.
Yeah, driven the car during the testing stages, but that was a long time ago. Kevin, of course, with a lot of background in rally cross, but also recently has done some rally raid. In a good position to pick up the pace immediately and did a great job. Arlen Kotlinski was impressive too. I think Arlen Kotlinski's pace has gone up from Saudi Arabia, and I'm excited to see what she does over the course of the next few races, gaining more time in a discipline which is much more different to her than it is for Kevin, coming from rally cross into this, for Michaela coming from racing on tarmac tracks to this. That's a big change.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing especially is those that have come from that sort of single-seater discipline, that come from the conservative driving that you get on a track. It's very difficult for them to switch disciplines and then come into this. Next up, Ollie Bennett in the XI Energy Racing team. He choosing to go first. Christine GZ, his teammate, will go second in this combination.
Yeah, the driver choice makes a big difference for the rest of the weekend, because it dictates who's going to take the starts in the semi-finals and the final. You could hear the RPM rise as Ollie used his hyperdrive on that front straight. 4 seconds of an extra boost of power. Good place, I think, to use that.
Yeah, sensible option, isn't it, to use it there where you've got lots of traction, it's flat, you can go fast now, either at the beginning of your lap or the end of your lap as you're coming either into the switch or to that final. line where you cross over and you take your time. So those are the best places to use it. The car kicking around, the sand flowing around. A decent time. Improvement shown, I think, by this team. They'll want better this afternoon in qualifying too.
Well, that is Q1 done here in Senegal. Sebastian Loeb and Cristina Gutierrez, P1 after the session. Absolutely brilliant drive by them. Tell you what, though, all to play for. Super close at the top of the table.
X44 qualifying leaders, Seb, Loeb here. Is this exactly the start you wanted from the Ocean X Prix?
For sure, we couldn't have a really better start than this. We are leading we won the qualifying one. Now it will be very important to do a good qualifying too. But the start is great. Cristina did a great run too, so we were both in a good rhythm. And so it's looking good at the moment, but the fight will be intense.
You've been here in the command center watching your competitors' runs very closely. What are your thoughts on your opponents?
I think we have Leduc and Prix, which are really strong. Leduc is pushing really hard, Sarah is very fast too. So, but also the other, with Christopherson, we know that he's able to be very fast. You see now the team with Ekstrom and Nuta Kleinschmidt, which is also very strong. So it's important to do a clean run, not to lose too much time, because it will be quite close, I think.
Certainly could be close. Sebastian Loeb there, and they are X44 leading the standings. Then Leduc and Price and Ekstrom and Kleinschmidt. What a fascinating combination of drivers. It was actually Carl Leduc setting 2 of the fastest sector times, but Loeb Gutierrez doing enough with one of the fastest sectors to go top. They'll hope to carry that over to the next section.
Brilliant stuff from Q1. For me, I think what's really interesting is we've got 2 of our top 3 teams from last time out right at the bottom of the table. Certainly in terms of qualifying in Saudi, the Science team have had a shocker there at the bottom with Andretti as well. And at the top of the table, we've got the 2 teams who had the worst weekend in Abt Cupra and in Chip Ganassi Racing. So we know they can threaten for the pace, but they've got to catch up with X44. It's brilliant. It's so close. Can't wait for more. So this was the top run from X44. Sebastian Loeb taking the seat for the start. That means that he'll be taking the seat, of course, in the semi-finals at that point. So they put Loeb in for the start there. I mean, I think either of them could take the start, to be fair. Gutierrez, so impressive on the second lap.
Yeah, really impressive from the duo, just showing how much teamwork is so essential in this championship. The sand kicking out from that lovely purple car. Lewis Hamilton's team, Loeb Gutierrez, handpicked by him to go into this car and see what they can do to challenge our top standings at the moment, Rosberg and Rosberg ex-Rosberg team. So there's a little grudge there.
Yeah, RXR, Christopherson and Taylor didn't end the session as high up as we might have expected them to. Say they were edged by Abt Cupra with Jutta Kleinschmidt in with Ekstrom. And then by Chip Ganassi Racing. So we really have got some super quick drivers. The drivers we weren't sure about how quick they were have ended up really quick right up at the top of the table. But Gutierrez, so impressive on that second lap. It is very much advantage X44, but we've got a whole nother session of qualifying to come later on today.
Yeah, the reason we're here, of course, the Ocean X Prix, to highlight the warming of the oceans and also the plastic pollution. So let's find out a little bit more about this beautiful backdrop.
Along the coastline of Senegal with marine biologist and part of our science committee, Sheena Talma. I'm really pleased to speak to you today because I heard a fact that blew my mind. 8 million pieces of plastic pollution dumped into the ocean each day. Here in Senegal it's very obvious, but it's not a Senegalese problem, is it?
No, I think you're so right in pointing that out, right? It's not a Senegalese problem, it's a global issue, okay? There are many issues facing our ocean. Plastic is one of them. And the nice thing about plastic is we're able to see it. So we form this empathy with, you know, animals that take it in, ingest it, and then can't expel it, and unfortunately die, right? But like I said, there are many other plights facing our ocean.
You've spoken to me in the past about the three sort of peak things that, well, the demands that we're making on the ocean, the problems with the ocean. Explain them to me again.
So, you know, like I said, there are many plights facing our ocean. Plastic is great. It gives us a view of what's happening, but it also is a great way to segue into other issues. And one of the things that really I like about plastic and using it as an illustrator is the fact that it's all connected. Just like our ocean is connected, plastic and the plights that our ocean is facing is all connected. So you can connect plastic to the fishing industry, for example, right? Fishing nets and things like that are made out of plastic, and often if it's left out in the ocean, it will continue fishing. And then you have global climate change, for example. And all the other like chemicals and pollutants that goes into our ocean, and we have no idea because we can't see it.
So essentially we're making too many demands on the ocean.
That's right, yeah. I think we're perhaps taking out more than we bargain for, really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the Ocean X Prix qualifying 1 done, qualifying 2 still to go, and what a thriller this track is shaping up to be.
Yeah, can we see Sainz and Andretti United bounce back? Both those teams, Acciona, Sainz and Andretti United, having a shocking session. We know they're front runners. We've got new front runners in Abt Cupra and Chip Ganassi Racing, up there with X44, who were there all last time. There is all to play for. We're going to do it all again this afternoon.
Yeah, remember this is only part 1 of qualifying, part 2 still to come. That sets the order for the semi-finals tomorrow. The top 4 teams, the top 2 in each section, going through to the final. So a lot of pressure on these drivers still to come in the X Prix, but it's going to be good.
It's going to be very good indeed. 4 car finals, so there are 6 places up for grabs. Then they've got to do battle for that. They've got to get the job done this afternoon in Q2. There is so much more to come from Senegal. We'll see you in just a couple of hours' time. Who's going to take the top qualifier?